So, with no further ado, we'll start those stories with one of our best known and most loved storytellers, and that's Sheree Fitch. She's an award-winning storyteller, poet, educator, advocate for children, women, and literacy. She's been a writing mentor to many, and these last few years, she's also been a passionate community activist in rural Nova Scotia. She's been a cultural ambassador, giving readings at the Library of Congress, the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C. on Canada Day. She's done a cross-country national reading week in the Himalaya of Bhutan. She's worked in a healing literacy program with Inuit women in Nunavut out on the land. The rumor is she ran polar bears with Margaret Atwood. Perhaps you'll get a chance to ask her about that later. The book Toes in My Nose was first published by Doubleday Canada 30 years ago next year, but when Doubleday stopped publishing picture books for kids, it was a Nova Scotian publisher, Nimbus, that stepped up. Along with many of her other classics, Nimbus has published Sheree Fitch books for a second generation of readers across Canada and beyond. Please welcome Sheree Fitch.
Thank you so much, and I'm really, really happy to be here tonight. How can a poem be a poem if it doesn't get said, and how can a book be a book if it doesn't get read? And I'm not going to spend my time and not here tonight. But I am going to tell you 3 stories. You know, we only have 3 minutes, and I can talk really fast. So I got to, 3 stories. The first story is, picture this, a 20-year-old mother writing poems for her son on recipe cards and filing them away and dreaming of maybe someday I wish I could maybe be a writer, and being able to, 2 things happen. Go to UNB and see Alistair MacLeod reading from the boat and go, oh, he's from Nova Scotia where my grandmother's from, and he's a writer, and maybe I could grow up to be a writer. And the other thing was finding a book called The Witch of Port LaJoy. And Jan, I feel Janet Barkhouse is here tonight. And thank you for Janet Barkhouse books, from the Pit Pony to everything she gave us, and Lorimer Publishing. I thought, you know what, you're right next door. I was in New Brunswick then. Maybe I too could grow up to be a writer. Fast forward many, many years and many, many books, which I'm very grateful for. And I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm living there because I fell in love and my husband went there. I followed him because women can do that. That's a story in itself. But I'm at the Book Expo. I'm there with another publisher, an away publisher, and I'm going all over these aisles of this great big book expo, and I turn the corner, and who is there? Washington, D.C., representing Nova Scotia, Terry Holder and Dan Suzu from English Publishing. And I'm like, whoa, you're here! You're home! And I was like poor Terry Lee in there. I was so homesick. I was writing a novel that time about Nova Scotia, but there they were, and I can't tell you how heart-burstingly happy I was to see Nova Scotia there among all those international book publishers. It's home, and they're here, and look at their work, it's good. I could go on and on about Kay Tudor and Isabella Knockwood's book about residential schools in 1992. You know, if you haven't read it, guess what? You still can. Why? Because it's in a book. Donna Smith, The Quilt. First book ever written about domestic violence in rural Canada. You can still read it because it's in a book. But I was going to write a poem for tonight, and I got up early this morning, and this is true, I couldn't make this up, to finish that poem and edit it and get down to the 5 minutes I said I promised I would be under. And I went to edit it, and in my email box came this note. And I'm going to read it. I'm sorry, it's very personal. I asked permission to read it, but this will say more than I ever could about why we're all here tonight and why I believe in Nova Scotia publishers. Dear Sheree, I've been wanting to share an exciting thing that happened because of your inspirational Mabel Merkle story time at Glasgow Square, Picture County, back in the summer, I think. Our 10-year-old son, Glenn, has been homeschooling since a difficult experience in primary school. He's been a reader since he was 4, but he always was very reluctant to create anything himself. Although his story time seemed a bit young for a boy that age, he could use everything, we thought the younger boys would get something out of it. Well, anyway, thank you for planting the seeds for him. He was so inspired and encouraged by your excitement, passion, and positivity. He is an early riser, so when I got up the next day, he was on the couch with a list in his hand. I was intrigued. He told me he had all the characters for his novel. The boy who had thus far only written one poem and said that he hated to write. We had conversations all day about his book and his characters, the names of the characters, Queen Quarrelsome and Princess Persistent. I really like Princess Persistent. Here we are months later, and this kid is still writing his novel every day. He's enjoying it so much. I'm not even part of the process anymore, and he's totally self-motivated. You're awesome. I wonder how many stories you don't get to hear. I wonder how many stories you don't get to hear. He meant me, the writer who doesn't always know how my books travel. But I am saying to all of you here tonight, if we did not have the publishing industry in Nova Scotia, how many stories will we not get to hear? We have to keep hearing our stories because part of our vibrant culture is telling the stories of who we were, who we